Well, the manager has spoken to the media today. There are also some pretty impressive statistics at work when we look at the last 15 games and compare the old firm. And good news about a award that Phillipe Clement has won as well. Well, let's start off with that award that our fantastic manager has won. Phillipe Clement has really seen a sea change in the form of Glasgow Rangers since he has come to the club. He really has instilled not only a winning mentality, but a real sense of pride, passion in these players, that they will run through walls to get the job done, not only for him, but for the fans as well, as he seeks to kind of develop that synergy that he talked about between the team and the players. Well, what's the award that he's won? Well, he has been named Manager of the Month, Glenn's Manager of the Month for January, and he received his award today. Congratulations, Phillipe, a very well-deserved award indeed for all your absolutely fabulous efforts. We're also going to talk a little bit about has one of our Rangers legends a little bit lost it just a little bit. We'll talk about that near the end of the video, so hang on for that. But let's start off with those early stats before we talk about what the manager has been speaking about in the press conference today. These are the last 15 games comparing the records of Phillipe Clement and Brendan Rodgers. Now, in the last 15 games, Phillipe Clement has won 13 of his last 15. He's lost one. Yes, unfortunately, that was to that lot from across the city. He's drawn one and accumulated 40 points in that 15-game period. On the other hand, across the city, Brendan Rodgers has won only 10 of his last 15, lost twice to Kilmarnock and to Hearts, and drawn 3 games and amassed just 33 points. Meaning Rangers have accrued 7 more points in that time. Now, look, I know that you can't take that realistically across a whole season because it's very much a snapshot of one period of time, 15 games. And yes, you do play the majority of the SPFL in that time. But, you know, it doesn't take into account injuries. It doesn't take into account the changes in weather. It doesn't take into account the changes in pitches, home and away fixtures against all teams. But if you were to look at that, you know, and break that down a little bit, Rangers would average 2.6 points. Well, it's 2.6666 reoccurring, but let's say 2.6 points per game. That's what we're going along at the moment, which is very impressive form indeed. Certainly title-winning form, if nothing else. Celtic are currently averaging 2.2 points per game, so a 0.4 less than Rangers. If you were to put that across a 38-game season, Rangers would accrue 101 points, Celtic 84, meaning Rangers would win the league by 17 points. There certainly seems to be, you know, in terms of the form, in terms of the way that both teams are playing, a real swing towards Rangers in terms of momentum, in terms of the way we're playing, in terms of the caliber performances, and in terms of the resilience of the two teams. You know, you look across the city and there really is a bit of a falling apart going on. You know, the players are not playing perhaps to their full potential. Their manager looks under pressure. Their board is hated by every single one of their fans. Their fans just are so self-entitled. It's hilarious. But whereas now in our half of the city, on the blue half, let's face it, which is the blue majority, we are more united. It is very much a positive feeling for once, a real synergy between fans, players and manager in terms of moving forward as one and being successful this season. You know, you've really got to praise the work that this man is doing. He is, you know, really turning it around both on and off the field. It has really brought in, you know, a real spirit to this team, to a real spirit to admire. And you know, that second half against Livy, and yes, I know it was only Livy, you know, has been particularly good, and the performances really are improving. Players improving as well. You know, John Lundstrom, for example, looking good. Cyril Dessers making improvements. Players that previously were perhaps not performing under the previous manager now making progress. All thanks to this manager, Phillipe Clement. Now, Phillipe Clement has spoke to the media today ahead of Tuesday night's game against Aberdeen. Now, obviously, a lot of the talk is around the appointment of Neil Warnock as Aberdeen manager. Neil Warnock did say that he was going to wait, but apparently the law of playing Rangers was too much for him, and he wanted to take charge today so that he would be in the dugout for the game against us. You can just see what a pull we genuinely are in terms of, you know, other clubs, managers, etc., in towards us. You know, it really is quite hilarious, really. And the fact as well that if you actually watch the press conference today that Neil Warnock gave, it was quite funny. You go back across what Neil Warnock talking about Scottish football, and he talks about being a Rangers fan, loving Rangers. Yet today he said he was a Greenock Morton fan. I wonder if that's anything to do with the audience he was speaking to, given their historic dislike for us shall we say. But it certainly will be an interesting one tomorrow. Warnock will have them well organised. He'll have them bang up for it. That's what a Neil Warnock team does. As I said on the video this morning, he is a good manager, but we have more than enough talent and we have a better manager as well to overcome that challenge. Phillipe Clement has been speaking to the media today. And, if you look at what he said, there's been some really interesting things to come out of what that news conference that he's just finished giving at Ibrox. He talked about the fact that, he wants to be competitive and win trophies, and he wants to stay in all three competitions. That's really, reassuring to hear that, to him, no one competition carries precedence. I'm sure amongst the fan base, there is one competition that carries precedence. We all want to win the league. I think that is a definite. But for Phillipe Clement, it is equally important to go for every single trophy and to push for every single trophy. Why? Because this man has ambition. He has a determination to succeed. He has a determination to be the best. And that certainly goes back to him falling into line with some of the great Rangers managers, for example, falling into line with Graham Souness and Walter Smith, William Waddell, to name just but three of our former managers who have been fabulous for us. He says we know we're the only team that has that, which is a little bit of a snipe, I think, at those lot across the city, even though he doesn't usually get into that. We are the only team that can win a treble and also a quadruple this season. They can't. They can only win a double. There we go. There you go, Celtic. Where's your treble gone? Some real positives though, isn't it? That he's so determined to do very well. He did speak about Aberdeen. He talked about the fact that that Aberdeen have got a good quality of squad. It's a team with a lot of quality, he said, and we have to be our best to get the 3 points, which is pretty accurate. Aberdeen gave a very good account of themselves, didn't they, at the weekend against Celtic? First half Celtic were comfortable, but second half, Aberdeen were by far the dominant force, and they did exceptionally well. And I think we're very unlucky not to come away with the victory. And obviously the historic thing there of, Aberdeen always tend to raise their game against us anyway. And as Phillipe says, we will have to be at our very best. There is no opportunity for shirking, no opportunity for a duff 10 minutes here or a duff 20 minutes here. It has to be another 90-minute performance, a performance from the first whistle to the very end where we have to fight, battle, scrap for every single thing, just like we did in the League Cup final when we beat them 1-0 at Hampden. Yes, like I said, Neil Warnock will have them up for it. Yes, they have some very good players. People like Bojan Miovski, Connor Barron, are very talented footballers. And Bojan Miovski certainly is going to be someone we have to watch. He has that speed to run off the back of defenders. And, he did that at Pittodrie earlier this season. And Connor Goldson, John Souttar, whoever starts is going to have to be on their mettle. And it probably will be Goldson and Souttar who start tomorrow night against Aberdeen. Guys, we will have a morning news preview video of the Aberdeen. Lorah and I are going to record tonight. We're going to get you a morning news preview video out in the morning with Lorah and I talking about the game tomorrow. What else did he say today? He said, we have the same mindset. We are busy with our own game, having respect for our opponents and taking the points whilst entertaining our fans. We want to keep this really strong mentality that we have in our dressing room. And I think that's right in what he says. There is a very strong winning mentality out there at this moment in time, isn't there? You look at the last few games, and it's like Lorah and I said on the podcast last night, that in past times, I think, Celtic would have dropped points, but then we would have gone on and dropped points too, or somehow managed to mess it up. But there seems to be a real determination, a real, must win, can do type positive mindset within the squad that you can only put down to the work the manager's doing with them. And that's quite clear with what he is saying with these comments. One thing that was really positive was this comment that he made. He says, I know the way to win trophies. I've been there enough times as a player and a manager. That for me is a fantastic quote. I love that quote. I know the way to win trophies. I have been there enough times as a player and as a manager. He has got a very, very good track record, hasn't he? An outstanding track record of winning trophies. He's won league titles in Belgium. He's backed it up by winning back-to-back titles in Belgium. He's won cups in Belgium. He's won the Scottish League Cup here. He's already demonstrated that he can win trophies in Scotland. He says, what was really clear again was this emphasis that he always comes out with. You take things game by game. It is one game at a time. He is clearly not getting ahead of himself. He is not, you know, he's not one for talking about the end of the season, talking about the Old Firm game in April, talking about cup finals. He's very much for talking about each game in turn, keeping the players' feet on the ground, keeping the players focused on each game, not allowing them to look too far ahead, because when that happens, that's when mistakes happen. That's when points get dropped. And that is certainly something that Phillipe Clement will not allow to happen under any stretch of the imagination. And that clear second quote there, you have to focus game by game and not look ahead, is spot on. This manager has the perfect mentality for this job. He, for me, is what we would call a real football man, a real football manager, something Michael Beale was never. This guy is so focused on winning, but taking it one game at a time, building it up, turning us into that winning machine that we need to get back to, the machine we were under Sir Walter, under Graham Souness, under Dick Advocat, under the Big Eck. That's what we need to get back to. And that, for me, is perfect to hear Phillipe Clement talk like this. But that quote, for me, is just spot on. I know the way to win trophies. I have been there enough times as a player and a manager. And that's something you've got to respect. And, hopefully that's something that he's putting across to the players as well, that he has that know-how. He has that ability to get them silverware, to get them medals. You know what? You can make all the money in the world being a footballer. Of course you can. But when you sit there, when you've retired, you can't show off your money. Well, you can, but you know what I mean? You can show off your medals. You can show off the trophies that you've won. You can show off what you've actually achieved in your career. And you know what? You can have some players that have earned an absolute fortune, but what have they achieved? Absolutely nothing. And for me, if I was a Rangers player, I would much rather sit there, show my grandchildren, show my great-grandchildren the medals that I've won, the successes that I've had playing for my beloved Rangers, not just the money we've got. News about the team for tomorrow. Apparently Ryan Jack is not available for tomorrow's game. He's not injured. Okay, that's the first point. Ryan is not injured. The reason why he is not available is this. He said Ryan Jack will not be in the squad tomorrow. It is smart, with his history of injuries, not to risk him with 2 games in a short spell as we build him back up. So as they build Ryan back towards fitness, they will not risk him for 2 games in a short space of time, which is very sensible. There's a big debate, isn't there? Will Ryan be given a new contract? Does it depend on him retiring from Scotland? And, as Lorah and I discussed on the podcast last night, he is a very influential player. We do look better when Ryan's in the team. He just gives a confidence, I think, to other players to get forward. And I think we saw on Saturday, didn't we, that, with Ryan and the team, John Lundstrom was further forward than he's ever been before, really getting forward, influencing the game, dominating the midfield, which he's more than capable of with the form he's currently in. And he had some decent shots. Unfortunately, he didn't score. And I thought Ryan played really, really well for the hour that he played on Saturday. I thought he was at least an 8 out of 10. He was very, very good indeed. Sensible move from Phillipe Clement, though, not to risk him, not to push him, and not to worry about him getting injured. That is the right way to manage him. And maybe this is a sign of things to come. I think it was interesting, the appreciation that Clement showed to Jack when he came off, spending a moment out to talk to the player as he came off the field. Maybe there is a kind of a respect there and understanding there that what Jack brings to this squad, that maybe he will be offered a new contract. I don't know. I think, like we said on the podcast last night, whatever Phillipe Clement decides, we have to respect, as in terms of Ryan Jack. Leon Balogun, though, will miss the game. He will need an operator. He will need to speak to a specialist to see if he needs surgery. Now, Phillipe Clement did say post-match that Leon is a warrior and obviously could play in a mask, but it now appears that is not the case. He does need to see a specialist and he may require surgery. The injury is more than what we thought, in terms of concussion. That's what we thought it could have been. If you look at his cheekbone, it looks like he might have broken something in there, and that's why he needs to see a specialist. So Balogun could be out for a fair few games, which obviously is very sad. Given the way that Big Leon has been playing. Big Leon, for me, has been one of the best players at this club this season. He's probably been our best central defender, I think, this season. He's been rock solid. He's been, great bringing the ball out. He's been no nonsense at times. He puts his body on the line. He is a warrior, as Phillipe Clement was right to say. But obviously, he is going to be out for the game tomorrow. So it does look like it will be a case of Goldson and Souttar to play. Phillipe Clement, I think, was right as well when he talked about the progress this team have made. And that's one of the things that really encourages me, is the progress we've made under Phillipe Clement. I think if you go back to the start of the season, one of the things that was most worrying was that game to game, we saw no progress from Michael Beale's Rangers. It was the same old crap week in, week out. No identity, no tactics, no shape, poor performances. A little bit of what Sunderland are currently seeing, going from being one of the best footballing teams in the Championship to being one of the worst teams in the Championship. But Phillipe Clement has come in and he really has given this team an identity, a style, a real character. And, as he said today, he said, everyone sees the progress this team has made in the last few months. It's not about one result or one weekend. Obviously referencing the fact that we've, the gap is virtually gone now between us. There is 3 points there. With that game in hand that we have, that could be easily eradicated. But, he's right. It's not just about what happened at the weekend. It's not just about Celtic slipping up at Aberdeen. It's about this Rangers team and what we've achieved over these last 15, 20 games under Phillipe Clement, about what he's got us to do. And I think it's very short-sighted to just see it in terms of this past weekend. We have to look at the bigger picture. We have to look at what Clement has done for this team and the way he's changed this team into being a machine, a winning machine with a positive mentality, with a can-do mentality. He says, you see he says we see inside much more. You also get to see the progress with players like Fabio Silva. As he gets the connections, he gets better and better. And that's something else, I think, people were, rushed to judge Fabio, didn't they, at the very start, in terms of, the way he played, and people talk about him missing chances and not being a striker. But, look, Fabio, for me, played brilliantly the weekend. He was absolutely fantastic. He worked his backside off. His movement is just on a different level to Cyril Dessers. He works the whole back four over, and he has made excellent progress. And Phillipe Clement's right. The more he gets to train with the team, the more he gets to work with the team, the more he gets to play in the first team, the better he will become. And it's clear as well, there is an understanding that is really growing between him and obviously Todd Cantwell as well. And, Silva and Cantwell do seem to be able to rotate and change positions very effectively and really become a nightmare for the opposition to mark. And I'm certainly that's something that Big Phil will have seen and will admire, especially, in that initial interview that he gave. He talked, didn't he, about the wanting to see players interchange positions, about them not wanting to be one position players, then being able to move from position to position, which, is 100% correct, isn't it? And, you've got to admire that. And you've got to really, like I said, I really admire the work that Todd and Fabio Silva did on Saturday. I thought they were both absolutely excellent. He was also asked, and he talked about new signing Oscar Cortez. Now, it was good to see Oscar get a bit of a run out at the weekend. Obviously, Oscar is a very talented up-and-coming player, only young, a winger, an exciting player. Phillipe Clement said that Oscar was very excited. He loved the stadium and playing in front of the fans. You see, he keeps his cool and does not play with any nerves. So, this is what we need to see from Oscar. We do need to see, this quality. And look, I know it was only a small sample of Oscar Cortez. It was not the whole Cortez, if you get it. It was a kind of just a snapshot. But I thought he did exceptionally well indeed. I thought he played well. I thought he looked good. And I think he can play wide. I think he can also play in that 10 role as well, which could be interesting going forward as to how he is going to be used. But again, like the other players, the more time that Oscar Cortez spends with the team, the more time he spends training with the team, the more time he spends actually playing, the better for us, and the more his understanding will grow, and the more he will bond with his teammates and become an effective part of this team. And overall, you look at this press conference, and again, another very positive press conference from Phillipe Clement, with all the right notes, with all the right sounds, with all the right things to say in terms of the progress we're making, the positive winning mentality, the ability to win trophies. And at the end of the day, as a Rangers manager, that's what you are judged on, is your ability to win trophies. And that's what Phillipe Clement needs to concentrate and focus on, for me. Fabio Silva also spoke to the media today. He was the player that was first up, ahead of his manager. I don't know what you guess, the manager's warm-up act, shall we say. One thing that he said that was good was the fact he said that the coach prepares us in training for things to be more natural in games. Everyone is involved and working for us to win, which I think is fantastic to hear it. And the fact that Clement does prepare them for everything so that never, ever are they ever taken by surprise, that everything that happens is kind of expected, that from a set piece, they know what to expect from a passing move, attacking move, a defensive situation. They know what the opposition will do. Clement quite clearly prepares his team superbly well. Clement, Fabio Silva also talked about the fact that, he was enjoying his time at Rangers. He felt he was improving with every game. He loves the atmosphere in the dressing room and with the fans as well. He loves the environment. And it's like a lot of players that come here, isn't it? They fall in love with the club. They fall in love with being here. He talked as well about the fact that he's gaining extra confidence from the goals and the assists that he's getting. And he says there's a lot of games, so it's impossible to play all the games. It's good for the coach to have different options. So could it be that Fabio will be rotated tomorrow against Aberdeen? I certainly hope not. I really hope that he starts ahead of Cyril Dessers. I think he is a better player by a big, big margin. So interesting comments from Fabio and from the manager today ahead of the game against Aberdeen on Tuesday night. So, guys, just to finish off with, there was a comment made by former Rangers manager Graham Souness. Now, look, before anybody criticises me of saying I'm slagging Graham Souness off, I'm not. I love Graham Souness. I wouldn't be Rangers fan without Graham Souness. I love this guy, and I think as a club we've got so much to thank him for what he did for us. But sometimes he does come out with the most ridiculous of statements. Apparently, he repeated his statement that if Rangers and Celtic wanted to get into the Premier League, they would be better off playing at a shared 100,000-seater stadium, which to me seems absolutely bonkers. A suggestion. Ali McCoist on TalkSport this morning even retorted against Graham Souness, saying, for goodness sake, Graham, do us a favour. And that's one of his former players. I think it is an absolutely loopy statement, to be perfectly honest with you, and perhaps a little bit of a touch point as to why Graham Souness wasn't given a job with the club for these slightly off-the-wall opinions. But like I said, I'm not slagging him off. I'm just saying that it's slightly off the wall. I love Graham Souness, always will. Respect the guy, respect the hell out of the guy for everything he's done for our club. Well, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered, about the great news on the stats. We've got the great news of Phillipe Clement winning his Manager of the Month award, about the positive sounds coming out of this club in the comments down below. And if you can sub to the channel, please do it, guys. Help us to keep growing every single day. We'll be back obviously in the morning with a video, a preview video, a match day preview video. Myself and Lorah are going to record that tonight for you. So please obviously come and join us for that in the morning. Guys, on the way out, 2 jobs I always ask of you. Number 1, can you please smash that like? And number 2, as always, remember, we are the people.